I'm going to wait for some questions to start rolling in, but in the meantime, we're going to be talking about basically the Paycheck Protection Program, which is the thing that a lot of you have been hearing about, which is the loan that can get forgiven if you use it for certain categories. So I'm going to give like a real quick overview so we can get into the more specific questions. For any of you guys that are just seeing this for the first time, over the last 4 days, I've probably done, I don't know, maybe 30 plus videos on the overview stuff and very specific situations that people have been asking me a lot about. I've gotten tons of like Facebook messages, comments on the videos. So I think I've heard all of the different scenarios that there could possibly be at this point, but maybe we'll find some new ones. So I'll get to every question. I'll just stay on here until we don't have any questions left. But let me give you a quick overview. Paycheck Protection Program. The idea of it is that they want people to not go on unemployment. They want you to keep them on your payroll, and they are willing to pay for it for 8 weeks. The government will fund your payroll. Now, there's all kinds of little stipulations, and I'm sure people will figure out how to completely maximize it. But the spirit of the law is that they want you to keep 100% of your employees and pay them 100%. They give you a little bit of extra to pay for things like rent, utilities, interest on your commercial building, your mortgage, interest on any business loans, and any health insurance premiums. So that's kind of the overview. There's still some like competing thoughts out there. They'll probably roll out more details on what the application process looks like and how you'll apply and how you will qualify for the loan amount. But the way that I understand it is that it is going to take your payroll costs over the past 12 months prior to the day that you apply for the loan. Right now, I feel like the banks are finally starting to get a little bit more information. Tomorrow morning, if you haven't already set up an appointment with your banker on Friday of this upcoming week, make sure that you call Monday morning. You get an appointment set with them. Get all of the paperwork together. I've done a few videos on that. I'll quickly run through this, but I go into just like I explain it more in these videos. But it's basically 2017, 2018, 2019 personal and business taxes, personal financial statement, accounts receivables, aging report, and your 2020 year-to-date numbers from your QuickBooks. If you haven't done your 2019 taxes, bring your 2019 profit and loss statement, your internal numbers from QuickBooks. That's probably the maximum amount that they would want from you. And then just to be safe, I think that you're only going to have to show them your payroll costs over the previous 12 months. If you haven't been in business for 12 months, you'll bring them the payroll costs from January to February 15th of this year, and then they'll figure it out from that. But I would get everything together that you have paid over the last 12 months of all the covered categories. That would be payroll costs, rent, utilities, the mortgage interest, the business loan interest, and the health premiums. So I would get all of that stuff together just in case it is part of how you can qualify for the loan. Because the qualification of the loan, the higher you can get qualified for, the more you're going to get loaned to you, the more you'll be able to use for those covered categories. So they're going to take your average monthly payroll cost, they're going to multiply it by 2.5. That's going to be what you are qualified for. You can take that, they'll put that money. The reason why you want to go to your bank where you have your business loans or your business checking is because they are supposed to be able to fund those loans on the same day as they apply and they originate. So that way they can get it into your bank account right away. If you don't have a bank account there, maybe it delays it a little bit. So have all your paperwork ready now. Get it ready here in the next tonight or the next couple of days so that you're ready to go. Get that appointment on Friday because I think that's the earliest. I haven't heard any different, but that's the earliest that I've heard that they'll have money available. I think that your banks will know more in the morning, but they will for sure, not for sure, but they will probably know the application process and a lot more on Wednesday. So Okay, and then just real quick on the covered categories that we talked about, you'll then be able to use that money towards those covered categories for 8 weeks. You can either start the day they give you the money and you get 8 weeks from then, or you can go back in time to whenever you want to start it, and I think you get 8 weeks from the day. Like if you retroactively do it, you can do it all the way back to February 15th. The way I think it works is if you start paying yourself back on February 15th of things that you accrued, then it only will run through, basically April 15th or 8 weeks. And then we're going to get in. I promise you that all the like ins and outs will get answered if there's a bunch of questions, and if there's a bunch of things that get missed, I will make sure that I try to cover those as well. All right. What's up, Heath? What's up, Jen? Michael Brady, been on all my lives today. He knows as much as I do. All right, Mandy Marzayas. How strict are they going to be on the SBA disaster loan? So they're gonna relieve a lot of the application process stringency on the normal disaster loans. What I read today was that they could basically use your credit score. So the disaster loans, they can decide whether they want to give it to you or not based on your ability to repay it. What I saw today was that they did not need to ask for any tax returns, but they could use your credit score, and they said, alternative, basically alternative methods of figuring out if you're going to be able to pay it back. So this Paycheck Protection Program is different. It will be based on you being in business since February 15th, and you paying yourself or someone else before February 15th. So the disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program are two different things. Disaster loan will be somewhat based on your ability to repay it. Paycheck Protection Program does not. Right, Brandon, what's up, man? Maria Marisic, should we keep making payroll even if the office is closed and employees are not working? If you take this money, then you should. Like if you apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, and we'll get into more of the details of like the head count and the payroll number, like how much you need to pay. But if you're going to take this money, you're going to need to pay payroll, because those other covered expenses or other covered categories, you probably won't have enough expense to like pay for that. And the way that you get the loan forgiveness is by keeping people on the payroll and keep paying them 100%. So the safest way to get 100% loan forgiveness is to keep 100% of your employees on your payroll and pay them 100% of what they made before. That's the safest way. There's other little nuances to it, but the spirit of the law is that they want the people to stay on your payroll, and they want you to keep paying them what they were paying before, and the government is willing to willing to fund that. Mike Lynch, what's up, man? Richard Brown, I am here. I also am here. Good to see you. Jeff Ludwig. Tom Strenkowski. If an employee received more money by being laid off and a business tells them to come back to work, are those employees required to come back to work? Is there a clause in the bill to force an employee to come back to work, come off of unemployment? I don't think so. The problem is that they, in the unemployment section of this act, the federal government is adding $600 a week on top of what the state pays. So say somebody makes $40,000 a year, or let's say they make $52,000 a year. That'd be easy. $1,000 a week, because unemployment is based on weekly stuff. So $1,000 a week. It seems like most unemployment, I think every state's different, but most unemployment's kind of like between 40 and 60% of what they normally make. So let's call it 50%. If they get $500 for unemployment, the federal government has now added $600 on top of that. So they could potentially make more on unemployment than staying employed, even if they're doing nothing. So that's one of the reasons why I recommend for the employers to keep people off of unemployment, because they're probably not going to dive down deep into the CARES Act minutia. So I would not want them to start being like, oh, wait a second, I can just do nothing and make more or 100%. So anyway, that's another reason why I would keep them off of unemployment. My boy Mark Farthing, what's up, man? Nicholas Anthony, a fellow Nicholas Anthony here. If you are a self-employed business owner that made more than 100K in 2019, does that mean we are not eligible at all, or can we get paid based off of that max 100K? I'm 99.9% sure you'll be able to get paid based off of the max 100K. One of the big questions that I'm sure is in these questions here is, what about people that pay themselves through distributions, or what about people that have a C corporation or an LLC or da-da-da-da? It seems like I did a video on this. The videos I did today, I'm wearing like a gray shirt in them. The videos I did today were, I reread the bill this morning, and I basically went through and found the sections that I thought, I screenshotted the sections that I thought were important that I kept getting questions about. And I read them out loud on the videos, and you can hear what the language is, and then I just kind of talk through what I think is going to be how they implement it. And one of the things that was good news was that in the basically how they're going to determine how self-employed or sole proprietorships are eligible. They said, I can't remember the exact language now, but basically they said that you were going to be able to use a Schedule C. They didn't say K1 specifically, but possibly a K1, or maybe even a personal income statement. So basically, if they have data that you've reported to the IRS, whether it's a 1099, a W-2, a Schedule C, a K1, I think you're going to be able to take that in. So whatever you have, personal tax returns, schedules, K1s, anything that you can show that, hey, this is what I took in as profit, I paid myself, and I reported it to the federal government, so it's legit. I think that's going to qualify. So if you're a self-employed business owner, you'll be able to qualify up to that 100K. So let's say they say, all right, you had $100,000. That's $83.33 per month in your payroll. But again, if you did insurance premiums through your business, if you did retirement through your business, be sure to have that information as well. Anything that could possibly be construed as payroll costs, you want to make sure that you bring that in. Then you would get $83.33. Let's just say you only had the 100K in payment. I also think it'll knock you down, because I don't think the federal withholding counts either. So I don't know if they're going to give you the full 100K, or if they're going to take out the part about, anyway, I think you'll probably get the 100K, but $83.33 a month, they'll multiply that by 2.5. That's 66. That's like 20,000. Then you would be able to use that 20,000 to either pay yourself up to the 100K prorated over the 8 weeks, which would be about 16 grand. Then you'd have the 4K left over to pay for any of those other covered expenses. Todd Sullivan, what up, man? I've seen you on a bunch of the videos today. Mandy again, can you still get the program if you don't have payroll but do have rent and utility costs? If you pay yourself, like I just said, with any of those ways of showing that you pay yourself, you should be able to qualify. If you don't pay yourself at all, if you've never taken a dollar in the last 12 months, you may not be able to. And then I also did a little bit of a deeper dive into the unemployment today. So if there's somebody out there that they're a sole proprietor, they just do their own thing, they don't have any employees, and maybe they can't prove that they made any money, unemployment is going to be a good option for you. Because usually self-employed people can't get unemployment. This bill changed that, so you'll be able to access unemployment. And like what I was saying earlier, they're adding $600 a week on top of what you would get normally. So that's good. Phil, thank you for doing this. You're welcome. This is PPP, correct? That's Paycheck Protection Program. Ian, what's going on, man? Brandon Couchman. Dr. Nick has done a ton of videos on this. Very grateful. Thank you. I appreciate it, Brandon. Just trying to do my part. Thank you for reading this and spreading the message. You're welcome, Jacob. Mike Lynch, EIDL versus 7A loan. So the 7A loan is that's the section of the law that the Paycheck Protection Program is. So the EIDL is the disaster loan program. So just because I did a really long video on this one, what you should do, whether you should do this one or that one. The way that I understand it is that the way that I'm reading it, and again, I think the SBA is definitely going to have to be more clear about this part, because this is one thing that everybody is wondering about. If you applied for the EIDL, I think it's January 30th, and you got money from the disaster loan, like you already got it, and you've been using it, you can still apply for this, and they'll refinance some or all, or like maybe part of that EIDL into whatever you qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program. So you'll still be able to do the Paycheck Protection Program. The thing that's a little vague is I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to. They just don't want you double dipping. They don't want you using your disaster loan money for the same things that are covered on the PPP loan. If you get the PPP loan, don't use your disaster loan money for the same thing. Use it for other stuff. Use it for other operating expenses. But that's one thing that they're going to be, I think, abundantly clear on by Wednesday. I did a video, and I've done so many of them today, I can't really remember the exact wording. But I remember in the video, I felt like the way it was going to work is it was okay to get the disaster loan. It was fine that you've already applied for it. Now this will basically take precedence. This would be the thing that I would go for right now. But you definitely need to make sure before you accept any money that if you take that Paycheck Protection Program, just double check, triple check with your banker. Will I be able to get a disaster loan after these 8 weeks are done? Or will this preclude me? And if they say, no, you can only pick one, which again, I don't think is going to be the case, but if they do, you need to then make a decision on, because the disaster loan money, you can get up to $2 million. You can spread it out over 30 years. It's a loan. It's not going to be forgiven, but it's definitely a longer term helping hand than the PPP. It's an 8 week thing where the bank is, or the government's basically saying, we'll pay your payroll. That's why they just don't want you double dipping is the way I understand it. So nothing, like even if you've gotten a loan by now, like a disaster loan, it won't hurt you with this Paycheck Protection Program. You're just gonna have to double check to make sure that after the Paycheck Protection Program is done, are you still eligible to get a disaster loan for other stuff than your paycheck? All right. Michael Brady, he knows lots. All right. When I meet with Wells Fargo on Friday, I should fill out EIDL app and ask for 10K advance. If I get denied in that app, will that app info roll over into a Paycheck Protection app, and that 10K is minus our? Is that the best way to go for quick hit for rent and bills? I know what you're talking. So the 10K advance that Mike's talking about with the disaster loan, because they want to put money in people's pockets right away, you can ask for up to a $10,000 advance on the disaster loan application while they're waiting. And I think I read that they have 3 days to basically give you the money. If they deny you the disaster loan money, you don't have the 10K advance is a grant. It will just they don't collect the 10K. If you end up getting the PPP, and let's say for $50,000, they will take that $10,000 out of whatever you're going to get loan forgiveness on the other side of the PPP. At the end of the PPP, let's say they're like, yep, you qualify for $50K loan forgiveness. They're going to minus out that $10K in free money that they already gave you, because again, they don't want you double dipping on the free money. So let me make sure I read that right. I should fill out the ask for 10K if I get denied in that about Paycheck Protection Program. I think that the best way to go is when you meet with Wells Fargo on Friday, as long as they have money available, I would do the Paycheck Protection Program first. Because even if you get the EIDL advance and then you get the Paycheck Protection Program money, it's going to be a wash. So I would just go for the Paycheck Protection Program, because the way that I understand it is the last I heard from Mnuchin is the day that they have that they take your application and originate the loan is when they will provide the money. So I would focus right now on the Paycheck Protection Program. But in the meantime, before they have the money, before you have the meeting, you can always call an SB. I would not call a banker, because I don't think these bankers know. I honestly don't think these bankers know much more than what I know, just because most of them haven't read a bill. They've just like maybe seen like a synopsis from their branch, or who knows. So a lot of the information out there that I see, it's like a lot of the details I don't think are accurate. So I would ask an SBA specialist. Each bank, they have commercial bankers, but then they usually have a person who's in charge of the SBA. So that'd be the first thing I would ask them, is about that. But even before the paycheck protection money is available, like later this week, I'd ask them about the disaster loan stuff, and if you're gonna be able to do it, do both of them. So Carolyn Ricker, can you list the documents we should have together again? Carolyn, if you could just go and watch that video, just because I've made like maybe 2 or 3 documentation videos, and if you could do that, just because I got a time limit tonight, and I got to make sure I get through all these. My boy Tony Ebel, what's up, man? Jose Aguilar, how you doing? Jeff Ludwig, do we need to pay back the payroll protection? Not if you use the money towards covered categories. So the covered categories, again, are your payroll costs, your the money you pay your employees and yourself, your rent, your utilities, your interest on your mortgage, if you have a commercial mortgage, your interest on any business loans, which I think would include like equipment leases, and then if you do health premiums through your payroll for your employees, that would count as well. One quick thing on the utilities, that was some good news today that I found too. I kept getting asked, like, does internet and phone qualify? And I hadn't seen it, but when I reread it today, it does qualify. So it's electric, gas, water, phone, internet, and then it says transportation, which I don't know if that really applies to us. Seth Richter, what's up, man? Let's see, Nicholas Anthony, thanks, you're the man. No, you're the man. I'm an LLC with an owner's draw. Yeah, I think an LLC with an owner's draw, meaning like you don't pay yourself a payroll, or like the owner's draw would flow through to your, I don't know, I have an S Corp, so I don't know how an LLC works, but I think it's like a C schedule, or Schedule C, that shows like how much profit there was. That was the thing. When I was reading the bill today, they said something about like documentation that shows the net take home. I think they're going to be pretty generous with self-employed people that maybe don't do payroll the way like that I do with a team, where like I pay myself $500. Like here's an example. So I pay myself $500 a week, so $26,000 a year as payroll, like a W-2 for me, right? But then I get a K-1 form at the end of the year that says, here's how much profit you had. So I'm hoping, for me personally, I'm hoping that they will allow me to take that K-1 and that W-2 and use those as payroll expenses. It would make sense to me. I don't know if they will or not. I'm hoping they will. But bring in, like I said, bring in everything you can that shows how much money you took home that you reported to the federal government, because that makes it legit in their eyes. All right. Lindsay, thanks for all your videos. They've been great. I appreciate it. Mike Lynch, so the PPP is included in the 7A. Yeah, the 7A is the like section of the law, like the small business, law of 1986 or something. It's the 7A is the section of that law. Flora Hyacinth, between my staff and myself, payroll is about $22,000 a month. My lease is about $5,000 a month. With the PPP, will be 27 times the 2.5. I think it'll be the 22 by the 2.5. But I've seen other places. When I read it today, like I read it on, like as I was doing the video. When I read it today, it's just the payroll cost. It's anything that you have paid, whether it's in benefits or money, to your staff or yourself. That's what is going to be counted. That being said, individual banks are going to be making these decisions, right? So if their SBA specialist misreads something and thinks that it's all the covered categories that count towards your monthly cost, who are you? Like, you don't need to like tell them, well, Nick on the internet said it was wrong. You're wrong. Just like you want to qualify for as much as humanly possible on this loan program. They're just going to come up with a number, and then they're going to multiply by 2.5, and then that money is going to go into your account. The thing that they're going to double check you on is what you spent the money on. I don't think they're going to go back and make sure that like my banker Ryan calculated the numbers right. So you as Flora, who probably knows more about this right now than your banker does, you know that your worst case scenario is you're going to get the $22,000 a month. All right. Your best case scenario is bring in all the stuff. Bring in the lease. Bring in the utilities. Bring in the interest on the business loan. Bring in all the covered categories, and then hope for the best. But your worst case scenario is you're going to qualify for the $22K. Best case is you might qualify for $30K times 2.5. Right? Then you just have more money to play with. You have more money to pay your staff the 100%. You don't have to cut them at all. You can pay the rent. You can pay you can pay all of it. And then if there's something left over, like if they gave you more than what you even could spend on the covered categories, then that'll turn into a loan, but you can just give them the money back and you don't get anything. So that would be my recommendation. Lindsay Luke, does the money from the PPP need to be spent by the end of June? No, I think that the way it works is you have to apply by the end of June, like June 30th. And so if you, like, let's say you originated the loan on June 29th, you'd have 8 weeks. The way I understand it, you'd have 8 weeks from June 29th on. Okay. Thanks, Doc. Do you apply for the EIDL at local bank or just the PPP at the local bank? I think the EIDL is on the SBA. That's like a thing that's already existed. The reason why there's so much confusion over the PPP and the reason I don't really talk about the disaster loan is because the PPP was the new thing. That was the thing they're just like making up out of thin air. The disaster loan's a thing that's always existed for like tornadoes and hurricanes and any kind of disaster. But it has been more strict in the past. Now they're loosening things up a little bit to make it easier to access. And I think this $10,000 advance thing might be new too. But that part I think you can do online. But I bet you could talk to whoever you're going to talk to at the bank, because most of the banks that are going to be doing this are going to be SBA approved banks anyway, so they'll know about the disaster loan. I'll say this, all these people that are like reaching out to you and trying to get you to pay $1,800 or $2,000 to like guide you through this process, I would not do it. I would, especially for the PPP loan, I think it's going to be way easier than a normal SBA. With the disaster loan, maybe it might be a little bit more complicated, but I think these people just play on the fact that like none of us really know anything, and it's just easier just to write a check. But right now you have more time than money probably, so I would say try it yourself and see how it goes. Crystal, is this based on gross or net income? I think it's gross. I'm pretty sure it's gross. Yeah, I think it's gross, but that part I don't know 100%, so don't quote me on that. Ed Lauterbach, thanks for all you've done. Don't know anything about you, but you popped a few days ago. Thank you. Hope you know more about me now. I'm an all right guy. Mike Cole's watching, Kirk Archibald, Tim Farrell, Paul Williams, Nancy Brown Thomas. What will the interest rate be if the loan is not forgiven? I used to think it was 4% for 10 years, but it's up to 4% for up to 10 years. So it'll probably be 4% for 10 years, but it technically says up to. So I think it might be at the bank's discretion, but 4% is going to be the worst case scenario. Also, the banks are incentivized to do this stuff for you guys. They're incentivized to help you with this. They get 5% of whatever you get approved for as their fee. You should not pay any fee. So, like, if a bank's trying to tell you that there's some extra $500 application fee, it specifically says you pay no fee. Like, the banks are getting their fee from the federal government, from the SBA. They're getting a percentage. Can we pay massage therapists through this? Yes. So anybody that is even if the massage therapist is a 1099, so anybody that's on your payroll, whether it's a W-2 or 1099 employee, will qualify. Flora Hyacinth, so is the EIDL more for lease, utilities, insurance, etc.? It's just for more like general operating expenses. So just like keeping your doors open. Before this PPP stuff, it like the disaster loan was for everything. It was for payroll. It was for rent. Basically, any business expense that you had, that's what the disaster loan was there for. But it was a loan. It's a low interest rate. It's like 3.75%, and you can pay it back over either like 10, 20, or 30 years. So if you pay something back at 3.75% over 30 years, that's a pretty low payment. And usually people know, like if a tornado comes through and like blows your roof off, you kind of have an idea of how long that's going to take. This, it's like they have no idea. They have no idea how long, like, before things are going to be back to normal. If like hotspots just keep popping up all over the country, like every month there's a new place, they're just like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I like this PPP thing is right now. This is why I'm not encouraging people to wait for this. Like, oh well, should I wait till the end of June? Should I lay my staff off and bring them back on and da 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 da? I'm like, man, this money is there right now. Who knows if it's going to be there at the end of the 8 weeks? Who knows if because it's like a set amount of money. It's $349 billion. When that $349 billion runs out, I don't know if they like re-up it, if they extend it, if they just cut it off, if they're just like, this was a bad idea, we shouldn't have done that. So I just don't think it's a good idea to wait on that money. So the EIDL, if you get both though, if you get the disaster loan, if you can get the disaster loan and the PPP, be sure that you're using the disaster loan for things that are not covered categories on PPP. That's where I think the problems might lie. Meg Bell, thank you. You're welcome. Lynn 𝗹𝘄𝘆𝘀, thanks for doing this, Doc. You're welcome. Carolyn Ricker, how do we know if our bank is doing the PPP, just that they are SBA bank? I would guess that the vast majority of like all the big banks, I'm sure, are, all the like the bigger community banks are. I think there's like a list of 1,800. I posted a link in the on my Dr. Nick page earlier today. So I don't know if somebody could grab that and maybe post it in here for Carolyn, but it is it's a link on the SBA website that you can like search who's an SBA bank. But I would start, because the way it's stated in the bill is it sounds like they're going to use pretty much anybody that's FDIC certified, or I'm sorry, FDIC insured, because they don't want the 1,800 banks just getting overwhelmed and it taking forever to get the money out. They want people to just be able to walk into the bank that they have a checking account with and be able to get the money. So I would start with your local bank. Just call them on Monday and ask them if they're doing this program. If not, you can always move on. Just move on to a bigger bank. I think there's actually, I meant to do this link earlier. There's like a US Bank it was like a pre-application. So it wasn't really an application. I think they were just trying to capture leads of people that were interested in this. But US Bank has a form that you can fill out saying that you're interested. So if you type in if you Google US Bank Paycheck Protection Program application, it'll probably pop up the link. And it's just like your contact information so that they can get in touch with you when they have more information and have an application ready. Lynn 𝗹𝘄𝘆𝘀, I was just able to log in now. Did you mention already about if this can be used to pay office health insurance? Yeah, that's one of the covered. If you were paying for that for your staff through your payroll, like as a payroll expense through your business, then that is one of the covered categories. Devin Waterman, what about if we just hired someone last week in the office? I think that is still fine. One of the things that they will, what was last week? February. Yeah, I mean, it's not, you're going to definitely be able to pay them. Did they replace somebody, or was it, if you could just tell, I'll get to your like response here in a little bit, but if you tell me like was it replacing somebody that already existed, or was it like adding a staff member on? Because that may make it a little bit tricky if your payroll went up after February 15th than it was before that. You'd still have a little bit of wiggle room with the 2.5 instead of just the ×2 of your monthly payroll, but that one's a little bit tricky. So just tell me down below if it's a new hire, like adding. Like you went from 11 to 12 employees, or if it was, you lost 11 and you brought in number 11 again. Flora, Doc, you rock. I was so overwhelmed prior to your live recordings. Thank you. You're welcome. Lynn Levuc, and I'm sorry if you have already covered this, but does it also cover paying your billing company and payroll company? Payroll company, maybe, because it says like payroll costs. So billing company, I doubt it. Especially if it's a company that you're paying, like if you're 1099ing a billing company, I would doubt it. Like, I mean, again, well, actually that one you need to, for sure, I would tread lightly on that one, because you don't want to pay them and then have to like turn that into loan money and be down money that that you could have paid to like payroll or these other covered categories. But I doubt that billing company would fall under payroll costs, and it wouldn't fall under anything else. Payroll company may, though. Like they kind of had some loose definitions of what payroll company was. Heather Bernie Carlson, Keith Helmendak, late to the party. Will PPP cover monthly office rent? It will. Like that's one of the, as long as your lease was paid, was in place by February 15th, it will pay rent. Some guy messaged me today, and he was just like, I signed a lease in February. Will that be covered? And I was like, what day? And he said the 1st. And I'm just like, jackpot. Like that guy gets his rent paid for the first couple months. So can you get the PPP if you have already laid off your employees as long as you bring them back? Yeah. So that's what they're hoping that you do, is you bring them back off of unemployment, because they don't want the unemployment numbers to be super high, and they would rather, they're either going to pay them on unemployment or pay them on your payroll. So even if they sit at home and do nothing, again, it's free money from the government to basically pass through you. This is the way I think of it, is the government, it doesn't want to pay them through unemployment. They would rather pay them through you. So the money is gonna flow through. You're the middleman so you're gonna get 2.5 times of your monthly payroll, and it'll cover 2 months. So basically that 2 of the 2.5 is just you passing the money through. The 0.5 is them paying you to deal with it. And then you get paid in that 2 as well if you pay yourself through payroll. So it's a pretty good deal. Devin, a new intern. Hey, what's up, Patrick? Thanks for the recommendation earlier. Actually, a little quick plug. I haven't plugged anything. If you guys have found some value, I would appreciate it if you guys did a Facebook recommendation or a Google review for Leverage Media, which is LVRG Media. You just Google it and it'll pop up. And always looking for people that are in the future, when I'm no longer a PPP expert. When people look me up, they'll be like, oh, he must be a nice guy. Devin Waterman, new intern post-scepter. Yes, it will go up. That might be a little bit tricky, because your average payroll is going to be based off the last 12 months. And then now you've got more payroll. So I think with that situation, you would probably be able to decide if you wanted to let someone go, let a full-time employee go to make room for that person. You could let that person go, and I don't think it would hurt you on the head count or the payroll amount, because they basically want you to, whatever you were paying somebody on the 15th, that I used to think that it was 75% of the total payroll. Like if you had $20,000 in payroll every month, that you could figure out how to take it down to 15,000 and kind of spread it out amongst everybody. And maybe one person stays at 100, another person stays at 50. But when I was reading it today, that's not really how it works. It's that each individual person who makes under $100,000 cannot individually take more than a 25% pay cut, or you'll get dinged on the loan forgiveness at the end. Now, if somebody makes say $200,000 and you have to drop them down to 100 because that's what you have covered, then that would not count against you. So anybody over 100, you can drop down more than 25%, but the people that are under 100, you can't drop below 25% individually. So that one's a little bit tricky. That one you'll have to really understand. And I just recommend talking to the banker or the SBA specialist about your specific situation and ask them what they think. Melanie Morgan, oh, that's a tough one. 𝗶𝘁'𝘀, maybe. If our LMTs work at other spas or chiro office and they also file for unemployment, will we lose our loan forgiveness if they choose not to come back to our clinic? That one's hard. If they file for unemployment and they choose not to come back, I think that could potentially, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so, because I don't think it would hurt your head count number because they're not a full-time employee. And the payroll portion, that part I'm not 100% sure on. I'm sorry. I wish I could be more helpful on that. If it does, I bet you it wouldn't do much. I don't think it's because it doesn't sound, well, it depends on how many you have, but it may cause you to lose some percentage of loan forgiveness, but it's not going to be like all of it. You know, like if you have other employees that you're taking care of, I think that you're going to be okay on that. But you may lose, maybe 10, 15, 20% of the loan forgiveness in that case. Where do I apply for the bailout? Your local bank, sorry. Let's see. So is it 8 weeks to use PPP or the loan? I don't know what that means. But basically the 8 weeks is when you originate the loan, you've got 8 weeks to use it. So if you get the money on Friday, which is April 3rd, that'll pretty much get you through the end of May. So you have, and I think if you go retroactive, that if you go back, because you can go back to February 15th to basically pay yourself back for stuff that you paid for already, that I believe that would start the clock whenever you first use the first covered category. So if you ran payroll on 2/17 and you use that because the way it works is you're going to have to apply for loan forgiveness, and you're going to have to bring documentation. So whatever the first date of you using that, so if you used it for the payroll on 2/17, then that is going to be, I think, when the clock starts for your 8 weeks. If you get the loan and you don't do it retroactively, it's going to start the day you get the loan, not the day you start using it, the way I understand it. Brandon Couchman, what if I bring someone else back on instead of the person that left? I can't remember what your specific situation is. What if I bring someone else back on? You know what? I remember talking about this earlier today. I don't think it would hurt. That would wash it out on the head count, because they're going to want you to end, or they're going to want you through these 8 weeks to have the same head count that you did before all this stuff started. But where I think it might hurt you is that because they want individual employees to stay at 75% or above, I think that they're going to have a list of names like Mary Jones, Susan Smith, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't bring Susan Smith back and now you bring in, Bob Smith, then they're going to be like, well, Susan Smith took more than a 25%. She's down to 0. So I think you want to bring back the same roster, because the way that it was reading today is that it was for each individual employee versus like the payroll as a whole. Because if it was the payroll as a whole, they wouldn't know who you spent the money on, right? Or like they probably wouldn't look. That being said, again, your local banker is, I think, the person who is going to be determined. The way I understand it, from reading the bill, is if your local banker is the one doing this, I think there's going to be a bunch of things that people don't know as much as even like what we're talking about right here, like this level of depth, to where they're just going to be like approving money that they shouldn't be approving. They're going to be writing things off that they shouldn't be writing off. So, I mean, don't go in expecting that, but I would have a feeling that some things are going to slip through the cracks. But the way I understand it is that you'd need to bring the same people back, like the same roster. Jeff McIntyre, I have 2 offices, just let go of a DC at my smaller office, and he's already filed for unemployment. Do we bring him back on? Also had a preceptor that graduated yesterday that will start up April 1st. Will this be applied to him as well? Let's see. I have 2 offices. Just let go of the DC and the smaller office. So anybody that has gone on unemployment that you've laid off, again, you want to bring those people back. They want you to have them on your payroll for the 8 weeks. Now, after the 8 weeks, who knows? I think that that if this keeps being the way it is now, that in 8 weeks, I don't know what's going to be different. Like, it's still going to be there. There's still going to be hot spots. Hospitals are still going to get overwhelmed. I don't know that they're going to be like opening this thing back up. So I don't know what happens in 8 weeks. So maybe at the end of 8 weeks, unemployment's always going to be there. Like, they're always going to have unemployment to go file for. I don't think it hurts you to like take them back on for the 8 weeks, then let them go file the unemployment. And maybe they extend it for another 4 weeks or another 8 weeks or whatever. But if you wait and maybe, okay, like let's take these two examples. Nick, goes on Friday and says, I want to get this money now. I get it on Friday. I do April and May. They pay for everything April and May, okay? But you, Jeff, was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna wait until the end of. I can make it till June. I'll let them stay on unemployment. And let's say you could get everybody back off of unemployment, even though for 2 months, 3 months, they've just been like, man, this is pretty sweet. I don't have to do anything and I get paid the same amount. But let's say you can get it back. And on June 29th, you get the loan and now you can use it for 8 weeks from there. Nick, at the end of May, might be sitting there going like, hey, what do I do now? And the government's like, oh yeah, Nick probably does need some help because he can't open back up yet. We'll give him another 8 weeks. But Jeff's sitting there waiting until June 29th, you may not get the same benefit. So the money's there now. People still haven't like gotten that sweet, free unemployment money yet. So when normal times are happening and people are making 50 cents on the dollar of what they normally would make, unemployment is not that attractive. Like, people don't really want to stay on it other than just like the laziest people on earth. But like, people that want to be employed don't want to be on unemployment if it's 50% of their money. If it's 100% or if it's 106%, then all of a sudden it's like, man, I don't really have to listen to Jeff tell me what to do. This is pretty nice. So I would probably bring it back on. Not probably, I would bring it back on. Also, I had a preceptor that graduated yesterday. I mean, could you imagine like making it all the way through school and then having to do an online graduation? Like, how miserable. Like, I feel so bad for these kids that are graduating. Will this be? Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to use it on him. I just don't know if he's not going to qualify. Like, anything you're paying him, it's not going to qualify him for. He's not going to be in your average monthly payroll cost unless he like took the place of somebody else. So again, anything that happened after February 15, I think is going to be a little bit iffy on whether that's going to like how difficult that's going to be to get covered. So sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. Jeff, again, regarding the PPP, what will the amount be based on? I think it's going to be based on your payroll costs, like any benefits or pay that you've given to employees and yourself. But I've seen other places where they think that things like rent, utility, all the covered categories are going to be used in the calculation. I don't think that's true, but I would not show up to that loan meeting or go to that application without at least having that stuff, just in case they do accept it, because that's going to be all about getting approval. And then the thing you've got to be particular about is like what you're actually using the money on. Jeff McIntyre, also thank you so much for all this info and all your videos. You're welcome. Check out his Gary Vee interview. That's right, legit. It is legit. If you guys don't know who Gary Vee is, like this is, if you don't know who Gary Vee is, I'm sure most of you do, but if you don't, he's all about content marketing and providing value to somebody's ideal customer or client. I'm a chiropractor as well. Like, I have a practice, but I have a digital marketing agency that helps people with content creation. And this is just the most classic example I can think of creating valuable content for your ideal client, which is, for me, is chiropractors who own businesses. Like, who doesn't need to like learn more about, so the people that are learning about this right now own the businesses. They have the employees, right? So people that have employees are my ideal clients. So I'm just providing value. I don't like make any money off of this. I'm not like, charging $500 to consult one-on-one. Like, some guy offered me money to consult with him one-on-one. And I was like, I'll just like tell you the answer. So I made him a 5-minute video that gave him the answer. So this is this is a perfect example of what Gary talks about and what you guys should be doing for your patient base right now is creating valuable content that they would need. Even if it is not come in and get adjusted, it's just like, here's how to be healthy at home. Here's how to work out at home. Here's how to do all these things. Because at the end of that, like maybe someday you guys will be thinking about doing digital marketing, content marketing. You'll be like, oh, I remember Nick. He helped me out that one time. And now you like me over somebody else and maybe you pick me instead, right? That's the way patients are too. So like add value, add value, add value. Tyler Kelly Mason is watching. Hello. I've talked to you quite a bit. Let's see. Oops. Let's see. Jeff Love, helping our profession. Thanks, Nick. You're welcome. Devin, that makes sense. Thank you. You're welcome. Ryan Doors, my boy. Carl McAfee is watching. Sarah, did you just get on? Like I thought, you're only in it till the end. You're not always there at the beginning. All right, Jeff, is there a time limit to use PPP? Yes, 8 weeks from when you start doing it. Greg Lee, I'll see you at the TRP immersion this weekend. Lynn Lavuk, we had an employee leave February 19th. We have been interviewing. If we hire someone now, that will still be covered under the PPP. They left February 19th, which means they were on your payroll. So that's the part that I'm like a little bit confused on. Can you tell me if they quit or if they got fired? Or if it was like layoff because of COVID or what, because that's the part that any changes you made on your payroll after February 15th, I think that's going to kind of make things a little bit weird. So again, I don't know if they don't care who the roster is, like for you, I would go hire like a bum off the street and pay them whatever this employee that left on February 19th just to balance things out so that I made sure that everything got forgiven. Jason Lamont, dude, I'm so sorry. So my friend Jason from college, he was like, Nick, you're doing a great job. It looks like people are really like eating up the content, but your lighting is terrible. You should put up like a logo or something behind it. So I apologize, Jason, that I didn't fix that. Jeff McIntyre, sorry if redundant, but the state has recommended that we stop massage therapy, and we have had other employees voluntarily stop coming to work for fear of getting the virus. How do we keep out our head count at 100%? They don't have to do anything. Like you can just like have them at home. Again, the way that I just thought of that when I said that earlier, but the way that this is going to work is the government's going to say like, listen, we don't want to pay them on unemployment. We'd rather you pay them. We'll give you the money. Just hand it to them. Just like take it from us, give it to them. And then we'll give you 0.5 of the 2.5 to like handle some of your other expenses, and we'll give it to you for free. They just want you to like be the unemployment administrator for 8 weeks is basically the way that I'm looking at it. Like I'm going to have my team working on stuff. Like I've got stuff for leverage that can be done. Like we're building more websites for people and helping people with just like longer term projects that maybe aren't what we normally do for clients. But if people are closed and they want to like be doing things in the meantime, we're helping with that. So I have more work because my business is virtual. Leverage is virtual. My brick and mortar, we closed last Monday. So I'm going to use those employees to help out with some leverage tasks. So yeah, they don't have to do anything. David Kreinbrook. Hold on one second, guys. I just want to be conscious of the time. I've got an interview in like 30 minutes. Okay. Currently, I have 3 full-time people not laid off. My payroll is much higher now than one 12 months ago when I had only 1. I added 1 in June and another in September. The 12 months. Oh, okay. So this is actually perfect because I had another person who had kind of the same situation. They went from 8 last year to 15 now, and they were worried about it. I can't remember I did a video on this because I like read the law as I was talking about it. So you might want to find that one. It's probably called something like, it's something about employee headcount, but you'll be able to, I think you'll be able to choose whether you want to do the last 12 months average or if you want to do January and February average. So that's for the head count. I can't remember for the actual payroll amount, but I would guess it would be the same thing because I don't think they're really not trying to screw people like in this situation where it's like I had one back here, I've got 3 now. So I think they're going to want you to get the money that it takes to keep those 3 people employed. So if you go back and watch either the headcount one or the like overall 75% payroll one, that I went through I like read the law and was just talking about it as I did it. So that's another one that's a little bit confusing. Seth, I have a marketing individual who is primarily paid in bonuses. 2 questions. Do I pay her just her hourly or do I pay her what she was making on average with bonuses over the last 12 months? If I don't have any work like outside marketing, I would just pay her to sit at home. Yeah. So it's going to be like whatever, like if she's a 1099 or if she's a W-2, like whatever her, and again, I've read so many things and talked about so many things today that I can't remember all the details. But basically they want her to keep making what her average amount was, basically on February 15th when they're starting all of this stuff. So yeah, they want her to make what she was making. Nancy Brown Thomas, I had a part-time employee give notice and her last day was supposed to be 3:30. I can't bring her back. Will this hurt my loan forgiveness? Again, like anything after 215, I'm not 100% sure of. It won't hurt your head count because she was a part-time employee. They're only counting full-time employees. Supposed to be 3. What do you mean you can't bring her back? Like if 3:30 is tomorrow, right? If you told her that you could just like pay her for 8 weeks, would she stay or no? So just tell me that if she if it's some like contentious thing or what. Woody Moore, thanks for watching all the videos, brother. I see you all the time. Aaron Bryant, sorry if this is a repeat question. Aaron, they're all repeat questions at this time, brother. I just want to be clear. If I have a brand new office and I haven't started paying myself and I haven't hired my first employee yet, but I do have rent, utilities, equipment loans, you're saying I should apply for the PPP and unemployment? I think that you might not qualify for the PPP the PPP is the problem, is that if you don't have anything showing that you made money, you may not have, because the way that they qualify you for the amount is off of what your payroll is. So if you haven't started making any money yet, you might not actually qualify for any money, if that makes sense. Because like 0 times 2.5 is 0. So you may have to apply for a disaster loan, and you'd actually be in a pretty good spot for this, because with the disaster loan, you could ask for what's it called? Oh shit, an advance. So it's like a $10,000, up to $10,000 advance. It depends on what your monthly costs are. I think that's how they decide it. But you could ask for up to $10,000 of an advance, and then if you don't get the loan, you get to keep the money, and that would be good for you if you didn't qualify for the PPP. That's $10,000 in free money. The problem is I don't know how that would affect unemployment, because again, they're just looking to not give people multiple handouts. They're like, I'll give you one handout, and then the rest you can get a loan for. So you might be able to get a disaster loan and file unemployment, but you may not be able to get the disaster loan advance, which is basically a grant, and get unemployment, if that makes sense. So that's a tricky one. That one you'll definitely have to talk to the unemployment office. But if bankers don't know much right now, I can't even imagine how little unemployment office people know right now. So I wish you luck on that. Gregory McCoy, how many hours do you pay an employee that is part-time? We have employees that only works about 10 hours a week. Do you take an average? How many hours do you pay an employee that is part-time? We have employees that only work about 10 hours a week. Do you take an average? With the hours don't really matter. I think for the head count, so the 2 things that matter are the head count and keeping them at the same level of pay. I think the head count only matters for full-time employees, the way I was reading it. There was weird language in there. It didn't say full-time employees, like anybody who works over 30 hours a week. It said like equivalent full-time employees, so it was kind of weird. that the way they languaged that. So I don't know if they would like combine multiple part-timers and make a full-timer. I don't really know how that will work. But in terms of the payroll costs, all those people would go into your payroll costs, and then they're going to take an average monthly that they're going to then multiply by 2.5. That's going to be what you qualify for. And then they're going to want you to keep all of those part-time people at the level that they were before February 15th, if that makes sense. Seth, thanks for all the work and time, brother. You are welcome. Natalie Ann, how do you show payroll costs as a sole proprietor with no employees? Hold on one second. How do you show payroll costs as a sole proprietor with no employees? Would your own income be forgiven under PPP? How would you show payroll proof for forgiveness if you don't use a payroll company? So, how do you show payroll? So I think that with the sole proprietors, the language that I was reading today was that it sounded like they were going to allow you to show like a Schedule C or a K1 or maybe even an income statement. I think if you can basically prove like, here's what I made as profit from my business that is screwed now, and I need your help. Here's how much it is, and then if it's under 100,000, then you would qualify for, like, say it was 70,000, you would qualify for 70,000 divided by 12, or let's use 60,000. So 60,000 divided by 12 is 5,000 a month times 2.5. You'd get 12.5, and then you'd get to use it for either yourself, or you'd get to use it for rent, lease, all that stuff. So, and I don't think that how would you show payroll proof for forgiveness? It, like, if you would just write yourself a check and you would just say like payroll, and however you like pay your taxes now, I think you would just do it the same way that you do it now. But you just need to like write a check so that there's a canceled check that you can show to them. Because I don't use a payroll company. I just use I guess Intuit's a payroll. It's like software that I use. I don't use there's no company that does it for me. Like my office manager does my payroll through Intuit. Would your own income be? Yeah, so I think, yes. So they're trying to help with sole proprietors. They're very clear about that. Like, even like gig workers, like Uber drivers, they qualify as well. Like 1099 employees, things like that. Nancy Brett, I think you're the one that was talking about, let me just see if I can scroll back and find it. I think you were talking about the 330 thing. Yeah, you were. Yeah, like I know she quit, but I don't know if you can't bring her back. If she quit like on 3/15 or something, you're in that situation where it's after 2/15. So I just don't know how that's gonna affect your. I don't know how that's gonna affect your like total payroll or like your head count or anything. So again, that's, if anybody has any of those questions of like what happens with this person that either started or stopped after 2/15 up until now, that I don't really have a great answer for. Lynn, let me see what yours was. They left to stay home with child because husband traveling for work. Let's see. That would not qualify unless the husband's traveling like to go help out in like New York ERs, like they're traveling because of COVID. There's and if they could stay home, if they have to stay home with the kid because the school is closed, you may want to look into the first stimulus bill or rescue bill. It's not really a stimulus bill, but the first rescue bill was about sick leave and about FMLA. That I don't know all the details on, but that may be a better fit for this situation. Especially if the kid has to stay home because their school is closed, which I would imagine is pretty much every kid now. That I don't want to like give you any like great answers or like detailed answers on, because I just haven't. That didn't really affect me, so I didn't dive into it. I just kind of like read I read a lot of Twitter about it, but that you might want to look into that one. I can't remember what it's called. It's called like Families First Coronavirus Bill, something like that. So look into that and see if there's anything in there that would make sense. Natalie, what's going on? Ryan, what's up, brother? What if massage people only get paid for massages given? So 0 massages given, 0 pay. How would that work with PPP? I think they're just going to take like an average of what they were making and and then it just doesn't matter that they're not doing anything right now. So I kind of explained it earlier that you're just going to kind of be the conduit of the money from the government to them instead of unemployment being the conduit. So you're going to get 2.5 times your annual or your average monthly payroll. And then you're going to take the money that massage therapists normally would have gotten from the government. You're going to pass it through. You're going to give it to them. And then you're going to get your income covered up to 100,000. They're like, that should take care of you. And then you also get the 0.5 as kind of like here's a bonus for helping us out with that. Aaron, way to be, life's all about timing, man. Lease started on February 7th. So that'll count. If I think you were the one that didn't have any, you maybe didn't have any income coming in. Brand new office. I haven't started paying myself, and I haven't hired my first employee. I mean, if you can show any kind of growth, the problem is you like haven't filed any taxes yet. That's gonna be tough. Like that's the one I just think. I mean, if you qualify for some kind of money for PPP, then your lease would qualify because you did it before February 15th. So here's hoping. I read that the January-February average is for new businesses. Businesses that existed. That's what. Well, it's not going to be the 12 months of 2019. It's going to be the 12 months prior to when your loan originates. So so you're right that businesses that are under a year. But I remember maybe it was the head count. But I was reading if you go back and you watch how they're gonna calculate the average monthly. I'm just getting all my stuff kind of mixed up in my head now, like the stuff I read today. So it's either going to be if you're new business, January and February for your average, and then 12 months from when you apply for the loan, going back. But I want to say that there may be an option for people like what we were talking about earlier, where their payroll has gone way up lately. Because again, the spirit of the law is they want you to keep people on. They want to give you the money to keep people on how they were getting paid February 15th. Oh, my sister's watching. Keep up the good work. Will do. All right. Jacob Fletcher, is there a cap to the forgiveness aspect of the loan? Yes, like however much you get approved for is the cap. Like you can't get forgiven more than what you get approved for, if that makes sense. David Tucker, what's going on? My UAC buddy. Elizabeth Baus, thank you so much for all your hard work and generosity. You're welcome. Aaron, thanks for the information. You're welcome. I'm pulling for you, man. I hope you qualify for something so that you can get those bills paid. Omar Clark, how's it going? Jeff Ludwig, we have an employee that is an LMT. She can do massage because the state won't let her. She can't do massage because the state won't let her, but she helps out in the chiro office. We pay her 2 rates, massage is more. How do we pay her through PPP? So again, it's going to be her average, I think, or like what she was making on average before February 15th. They want her to keep making that regardless of whether she's actually doing the thing or not. Because I mean, almost everybody is not doing all the work that they normally would do. Natalie Ann, thank you. You're welcome. Melissa Marley, hello. Kitty Yan, you're great. Thank you. So we still pay the full and the part-timers, even if the full-timer is actually working, the part-timers are at home not doing anything. That's the way that I understand it. I think that's going to be your best bet to get the 100% forgiveness at the end. So this all begins Friday. No, Mnuchin on maybe Thursday, at the press conference, he said that money should be there end of next week, which would be Friday. I'm just guessing that Friday is going to Thursday or Friday is maybe going to be the earliest. So I just want, I want all the chiropractors to be front of the line. So that's why I'm kind of pounding their heads on Friday. I was like, call them now to get the appointment. So I told him to do 2 things. So now Monday, first thing Monday morning, call your bank. Like if you have a commercial banker, like I have my friend from college is my commercial banker, so I just texted him today. He still didn't really know. He didn't have any details. I texted the SBA specialist at our bank. He didn't have any details. So I think tomorrow they'll probably know more, and then Wednesday they'll know even more. They'll know more like details. And I'll keep like making as the details come out. Like it's not like they're only going to tell the banks; they'll tell everybody. So as they come out, I'll make more videos about it. But tell your banker tomorrow morning. I want an appointment on Friday, and I want for you to text me, email me, call me, whatever you need to do to get a hold of me to let me know as soon as you know what the details are so that you can get all the stuff together for that. But all the stuff that I've told you before, those are the things you should get together. Natalie, thanks for everything you're doing, Nick. So appreciate your efforts. The governor in Colorado deemed chiropractors non-essential last Friday. Fingers crossed after the entire House of Reps sent a letter asking our governor to reconsider. Things may change. Until then, in your opinion, what approach with all of this should I proceed with? My banker is an SBA-approved bank lender, but she does not even have the forms at this point to proceed. So none of them have the forms. I would guess that you're going to be in that situation like most people will that have to close down to where they may need, and this is why the conversation I think we started off with was can you do the PPP loan and the disaster loan together, because the disaster loan would be able to pay your operating expenses at a low interest rate for a longer term to pay it back on. And then the PPP could cover all those covered expenses, which are the payroll, at least for 8 weeks, the payroll, the rent, the utilities, the interest on mortgage, interest on bank loans, and your health insurance premiums. So if you guys, like I'm at zero right now, like we have no patients coming in. We're just like trying to collect old money. This is another thing I said on the last Q&A. If you are still open and you see personal injury, a couple things you can do. Number one is have your staff following up with any personal injuries that are older that may be looking to settle right now. So all these people that are in cases are probably like looking to get some cash in their pockets. So they're probably like talking about settling. So I would be reaching out to any of those old PI cases. The other thing I would do is I would reach out. So I would be calling all those attorneys that have those PI cases. But the other thing is I would be calling the attorneys to say, hey, we're open. If you're open and you see PI cases, hey, we're open, because those attorneys are scared to death that their cases are going to be worthless. So I would be reaching out to them and saying, hey, we're open. We can continue the care, and then we can give them back whenever they open back up. And so maybe you pick up some good relationships with the attorneys and some PI cases. So Natalie, I would start with the PPP because that's going to be forgiven money. And then if your banker is an SBA approved bank lender, it means that there's going to be an SBA specialist there. So they'll be able to tell you for sure whether you can get the PPP money and the disaster loan. The only thing that I recommend or I implore you to do is with the disaster loan, if you can also get that, just don't use it for anything that's approved for the PPP. Marco Vespa from Denver, what's up, man? Lynn Lavuk, just want to thank you again for doing this. You're welcome. Melanie, great info here. Thank you so much. You're welcome. My boy John Green. Man, I wish John Green had questions. I wish I could pull John Green up right now. We have the best time. John, this is why you should be doing the Código 1850 or whatever podcast, is because people would love it. Jeff Ludwig, are we writing the checks to employees as payroll with taxes taken out? I would just pay them the way that you do. Like pay them normally. State taxes are included in the payroll taxes that are forgiven. The federal, what's the word for it? The federal withholding is not, but the federal withholding you can pay back over the next 2 years. So I learned today how you can pay it back. You have to pay. So the withholding tax you don't have to pay right now, but you have to pay half of it that you don't pay, that you defer. You have to pay half of it by the end of 2021, and you have to pay half of it, I think, by the end of 2022. Matt, I hope Ron is watching all this stuff. He needs to. Kitty Yan, are we to pay full-time and part-time staff at 100% of what they were making, or pay them what they would have received from unemployment? To be 100% safe, you want to pay 100%, but you can drop people down to 75% individually, not as a whole. Like you can't keep some people at 100 and drop others to 50. You can drop individual people down to 75%, but honestly, I wouldn't really recommend doing that. Alrighty. Oh, my buddy Eric just sent me something. It looked like it was from the SBA, so I'll look at that, and if that's from the SBA and it clarifies some things, I'll post that. I know you've already went over this, but for clarification, my payroll, including myself, is about $25K minimum or per month. If I understand, my lease and other essential expenses like electric, phone, and gas are included. Electric, phone, gas, and internet. So that was a fun one we learned. Those. Alexa off. These expenses are around $5K a month. So the amount of money I would try to receive would be $65K. Just trying to see if I understand this. So the way I understand it is that only the payroll costs will go towards the amount that you qualify for. So let's use your $25K, and let's assume that the payroll excluding yourself. So if you pay yourself $100K a year, you would be included in that. So let's include you in that and say that it's $33 per month. So you would qualify for 66. You'd qualify for like 82,500 or something like that total, and then you could use that for rent, electric, phone, gas, all that stuff as covered categories. But the way that I understand it, the way that I've read it 100 times, is that your payroll costs, anything that you've paid somebody in the last 12 months, that includes like benefits, actual pay, if you've given anybody severance, if you've given like anything that you can say, I spent this money for either benefits or pay to employees, you want to bring that with you. But I would also bring anything from the last 12 months that includes those covered categories, because you just never know. Like if you show up and you show it to them and they're just like, yeah, that all counts too. You're like, cool. It doesn't, but okay, fine. So if it does, let's say you have the 33 in payroll, you've got the 5K in extra, that's 38, that's 76 plus 19, that's 95,000. So now you get 95,000 instead of like 72 or whatever it was. So bring it with you, like you never know, right? And bring all that other stuff that I have in the documentation, which is 17, 18, 19. Personal, corporate taxes, accounts receivables, aging reports, personal financial statement, and your 2020 numbers and your 2019 numbers if you don't have your taxes filed yet. Natalie Lyle, my banker said that I should apply for the EIDL loan online, not with the bank. Do you agree, or does she just not know? I think the EIDL she's correct. I think that you can just apply for that online because that's an existing program. The PPP is a new program that they're trying to leverage the FDIC insured institutions to get it out fast. If everything had to go through the SBA, like the SBA website crashed the other day. So if everybody had to go through the SBA website to get this, it would never be able to handle the volume. So they're just trying to use local bankers. That's why I think it may be a little bit more Wild West than we are anticipating. Like I'm reading the letter of the law, the banker in, bumblefuck Iowa, like maybe doesn't read the letter of the law and doesn't, like you just need to know what the worst case scenario is like all of these payroll costs are covered. And if they try to tell you that you're not right and it's less than what you should be getting, then you got to fight with them about it. But if they're willing to like approve you for more, then and you can use that money towards those covered categories. The part that the government's going to want proof on is they are going to want proof that you actually use that money towards the covered categories. That's the part they really care about. Andre, what's going on? Robert Silverman, what's happening? If you guys weren't on the live yesterday, I mentioned that Robert Silverman and I did a podcast interview on our. If you haven't listened to I do a daily podcast, chiropractic's only daily podcast, Path to $1 Million. Wherever you listen to podcasts. And I had Robert on early last week when I started to do a lot of the trying to help people get through the COVID-19 stuff. And man, it was just such a good interview. He's such a smart dude in terms of how to be proactive to like boost your immunity and be healthy. But then also I think we got into what happens if you actually test positive or if your patients or your loved ones do. What can you do to keep that cytokine storm from happening, or how just keeping things at mild or no symptoms versus severe symptoms. So make sure you check that out. I think it was maybe like last Tuesday. Ryan Browning, what's going on? Steve Lumbo, been representing all day. Elizabeth 𝗶𝘁'𝘀. Give me 1 second. I just need to see if I can push this interview back a couple of minutes. Okay. All right. Elizabeth, which previous video had the best verbiage? Somebody in your last video said you had recommendations as far as how to speak to the bank. Which video had the best? I don't know. I've done like 30 videos now, so I'm not even sure which ones. So here's what I would say. I'd call a bank on Monday, wherever you have your checking account at, like your business checking, and I would say, can I speak to a commercial banker? And they'll say, okay, and they'll either transfer you to somebody or they won't. I would try to talk to somebody. Just try to talk to, if you can't talk to a commercial banker, maybe actually, I'd start with the SBA specialist. There, I'd have a feeling there's going to be no way that they're going to be taking calls tomorrow. But just talk to a commercial banker. If you can't get a commercial banker, get a personal banker, and just talk to somebody and say, I want to set up an appointment to put in my application for the Paycheck Protection Program that just passed recently through the Senate and the House. And there's money in there for small businesses. And I want to just make an appointment for Friday with a commercial banker. And they'll say yes or they'll say no, and you'll have to go from there. But the other thing that you want is not only do you want the appointment, but you want the you want them to if you do get the appointment, if you talk to a commercial banker, and like mine is, my friend is called Ryan, his name is Ryan. I'll say, Ryan, as soon as you hear from the bank or from the SBA on what the application process is, where do I have to do it online? What do I have to bring with me? How soon can the money be in? I'm just give me any information you can as soon as you can. Don't wait until there's a document that gets sent out by the bank. Just call me, text me, whatever. I just want to know as soon as possible so I can get everything together. But I think the appointment on Friday is going to be important just so that you can make sure that you got that locked in, because I don't think most people are thinking to do that. And the appointment's probably going to be a phone call or a Zoom call. Like almost all the banks are closed. So there we go. Yeah, Jeff's lobbies aren't open for banks. So it'll either be Zoom or online, just like everything. Heidi Sky Keller, I hope I helped you earlier with that question you had, Heidi. Lynn Levuc, do you have to use the bank you have your business account with, or can you use any banker? You can use any banker that is going to be doing this loan, which I would guess would be almost all of them. But the reason I say your own bank is because you have a checking account there, so they can drop the money in. And you are, like my banker today told me that they're going to be prioritizing existing clients. So we'll be at the front of the line. Oh, this is the other thing. This was good. I made a video about this earlier because I read this and I didn't see the first or the very last part that I think is important to some chiropractors. It said you should be given priority for processing and funding if you are if you're in an underserved or rural market, if you are a female-owned business, if you're I think it's a minority-owned business. They had like a rule in there instead of saying minority-owned business, but I think they mean a minority-owned business, like a Native American business. What was the other one? But the last one, which I think is important, is if you've been in business under 2 years, which I thought was interesting. So if you've been in business under 2 years, by the letter of the law, you get priority over other people. So female-owned businesses. Oh, and there's also grant money in there for, if you guys are in bigger cities, they'll have a small business like what's the word? Like development centers. Yeah, the SBDC, small business development centers, and then bigger cities will have like female small business development centers and minority small business development centers. So those development centers are getting money to help. So if you have those, I think everybody's going to be bombarding their I think they're going to be bombarding their bankers. So if you can't get a hold of the banker, then I would definitely call them. Actually, I'd call them anyway, because they'll probably find out just as fast as the SBA specialist. And I think most people just don't know those things exist. So I would be reaching out to those would be my first 2 calls in the morning, is to my banker and to the Small Business Development Center. And if you're a female, the Small Business Development Center in general, and then a female Small Business Development Center. If you're a minority female, I'd call all 3 of them, plus your bankers. So just anybody that might know something faster than what we might be able to read on the internet. So do you have to use the bank? You have your bank account. Oh, I just answered that. Jeff, thanks again, Nick. Make sure you get adjusted. Man, for real. I need to teach my girlfriend how to do it. I don't leave my house. Devin Luzad, 7A is different than PPP. Yes. No, it's the 7A is just a part of the law that they're funding this PPP under. So I don't know. I don't know how the banks, honestly, I don't even know if they know it's called PPP. So if you call them up and hey, I want the PPP, they may not know what you're talking about. So yeah, it's going to be funded under the there are also 7A loans though. So that's the confusing part, is there are regular small business SBA 7A loans. So just Paycheck Protection Program, they should know by now what that means. A real quick aside on if you do have an SBA loan, actually you guys should watch this video that I did on the SBA loans getting paid for, because the way it reads, it sounds like to me you could anyway. Let me finish this and I'll say the rest of it. If you have an SBA loan that existed before February 15th, that in this bill, they put money in there so that the SBA will actually pay for your SBA loan. So my building I got through the SBA, so I'm hoping that it is still classified as an SBA loan, because they'll pay the interest, mortgage, and fees for 6 months. Not defer it, not make you pay interest only. They'll pay your interest, they'll pay your whole payment for you for 6 months, which is amazing. But the thing that it said was, if you had the loan before February 15th, if you had the loan after February 15th, and then they said if you get a loan, watch that video about the SBA loan payment thing, because I was just reading verbatim off of the bill, and it sounds like you could get SBA loans right now if you qualified for them and get them paid for 6 months by the SBA, which would be a pretty amazing deal. And there's no application for PPP yet. Yes. Yeah. So that's going to be what you want to talk to your banker about. They should know I'm hoping by Wednesday of this week. Carla Flynn Adair, what if I, female, own 50% and my husband owns 50%? Does that give us the priority or not? Probably, but just say again, I don't think they're going to be that aware of all these little nuances. So, but you should definitely in the future, you should own 51, he should own 49, just so you can say you're a majority female-owned business. Devin Luzad, 7A must be paid back at some point. Yes. A normal 7A loan, yes, but this does not. This is forgiven. This is a loan that's given to you. It will be forgiven if you use the loan money towards the covered categories, and I've done a bunch of videos on that. So look up what those covered categories are. But as long as you use it towards the covered categories, it'll be forgiven at the end, and it doesn't count against your taxes in 2020. Omar, thanks for sharing all this. You're welcome. Lynn Lavuk, off topic, can you restate what you were saying about cytokine storm and treatment and prevention? Do you have a Facebook Live on that? I do. It's an interview with Robert Silverman. I don't know anything. All I know about it is marketing and how to try to make money off of a practice and be profitable. So cytokine storms are definitely not my expertise, but I did two interviews with 2 really smart people. One, Robert Silverman, the other one, 𝗴𝗄'𝘆𝘀. So they're on my Facebook page. You'll have to scroll way past all these SBA videos, but they were both from not this past week, but the week before. So 10 days ago or so. And they're also on my Instagram. That might be an easier place to find it. And that's Dr. Nick Silveri as well. Lynn Lavuk, do you advise doing SBA and PPP and keeping the SBA in your back pocket in case you need it. The PPP is going to be through the SBA, so I assume you mean the disaster loan. We talked about that earlier, so you might want to go back and watch this once it gets posted after the live is done. But I think that you're going to be able to get a disaster loan. I would do the PPP first. To answer your question, I would do the PPP first. When you talk to, but you're going to need, this is where, so in every like mid-sized town or mid-sized city and above, like I'm in a town of 110,000 and we have one of these. So anything above 110,000 would definitely have one. But there are these companies that they basically, they make their money by helping people with SBA loans, and they, you pay them $5,000 and they help you get a loan. And I would talk to those people maybe about that particular situation, like that question about, can I get a disaster loan and take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program if I don't use the disaster loan money for the covered categories for the PPP? So the way I think it is that as long as you don't use it for the same categories, you'll be okay. But you're gonna have to ask experts about that. All right. Yes, I agree on the 51%. Yes, exactly. For sure. Thanks for doing this. You're welcome. All right, guys. I got like a couple more minutes until I gotta go. Anybody have any last questions before I hop off? All right. I'm not seeing any. I feel like we covered a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think if there were any little nuggets that that we didn't cover at all that I thought or that we talked about today. The stuff today, the videos today, I think are well worth watching because I'm literally reading the bill and then talking about that. And I really tried to break it down to the topics that a lot of people were asking about. And some I don't have like clear-cut answers on that are like for sure I can say I'd bet my life on it. But you can hear the bill itself, So I recommend the ones that I did on Thursday. I had just read the bill for the first time. This morning I read it for the third time, so I know a lot more now. I'm more clear on the specific language than I was on Thursday. So you can watch those because they're good like overview videos. I've been a lot more specific in the last 2 days. So all right, we got a couple other people. What if you're still open? Or yeah, it doesn't matter whether you could be at 150% of what you normally are or 0. You have to make a good faith assessment that the economic uncertainty makes you think that you'll need this money. Which I don't care if you're like double what you normally are. You're like what Natalie said earlier, that the governor of Colorado, or the licensing board of Colorado basically said, like, guys, like unless you're saving someone's life through chiropractic, you cannot see these people. So offices like Natalie's that see really high volume, now I don't even know if she's well, it happened on Friday, so they're probably waiting until Monday to see what happens. Let's see. Carolyn Paul, thank you. You're welcome. Scott Evans, thank you. Thanks, Haas. Yeah, Haas, that's right. Kitty Yan, you're welcome. Carolyn Ricker, you're welcome. Jacob Fletcher, you're welcome. Mary Marisich, you're welcome. Natalie Lau, thanks again. You're welcome. My girl. Amber Brooks, did anyone ask about the 10K initial you get while they... Yeah, we talked a little bit about that earlier. If you want to go back and watch it, it seemed like it was kind of like, I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes into it. But we said that if you get the advance, the 10K, and then you don't get the disaster loan, and it gets turned into a grant, that if you get the PPP loan and let's say you get $50,000 forgiven, that the 10K that you already got will get taken out of the 50K. So they're not going to give you free money twice. I'm not really sure. City of San Diego City Council approved an economic relief for small business and eviction moratorium. Can I apply for that? Yeah. Like, here's the other thing is apply for everything. Like if you get all that stuff together that I told you for the documentation, that's just like the basic stuff that you need for loans. So I would strongly recommend talking to your state. That's why those small business development centers are so helpful, because they'll have their fingers on the pulse of not only what the what the state has, but also what the city or the county has. So be sure that you're reaching out to them. There may be like an entrepreneur council or something with your state, but I don't think anything statewide or local is gonna affect this at all. It's just the federal government doesn't want to give you free money twice. But think of it as like in high school, all those smart kids, they get every scholarship. It's like, we get it, you're smart. But that's the same way it is with all these grants and loans from these different localities that you, take advantage of anything you can. Gregory, thank you for your help. You're welcome. What goes into what we can get forgiven? That's in the, I've done that a lot. So just look for anything that's like covered categories and you'll find it. All right, guys, I got to hop off. I'm already 15 minutes late for this podcast. But I said this earlier. The only thing I ask for you guys, if you could do me a favor and just like Dr. Nick Silveri, just do a recommendation on Facebook of like, hey, he seems like a nice guy, or do a review on Google for Leverage Media. That's LVRG Media. I'd really appreciate it because I'm always looking for some help to show up whenever people are looking for me, that I'm an okay guy. So hopefully, I think somebody asked when my next Facebook Live will be a little bit ago. I'll probably just like keep doing them if I like in the evenings, especially. I've got more time, so I'll try to do them as much as I can, especially as new stuff comes up. But actually, I'll just do them just because like people, even though like I've said it a million times, they haven't heard it a million times. So I'll probably do one tomorrow. I'll let you guys know. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk.